Right now, you're probably watching this video without a second thought about how it reached your screen. But here's something wild. There's a 99% chance that this video traveled through cables sitting at the bottom of an ocean, just to reach you. That's not just this video. It's practically everything you do online. Your tweets, your DMs, your late-night gaming sessions. They're all possible because of a hidden network of cables crisscrossing our ocean floors. Every single day, billions of pieces of information race through these underwater highways at literally the speed of light. From your morning check of Instagram to your company's most sensitive financial transactions, it all depends on this incredible feat of engineering that most people never even think about. And if you think that sounds
impressive,
just wait until you learn about the sheer scale of what we're dealing with here. Because of this story, it's about to get even more mind-blowing.
It's gonna blow your mind.
Picture this. 1.4 million kilometers of cables. That's enough to wrap around Earth 35 times. These aren't just any cables. They're the literal backbone of our digital world, carrying 99% of all intercontinental internet traffic. But here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't some new technology. The story of these cables goes back to 1858, when the first transatlantic telegraph cable connected United States to Great Britain. Think about that. Before Abraham Lincoln was president, we were already sending messages across the ocean floor. That first cable was a technological marvel of its time, but it was incredibly primitive by today's standards. It could transmit about 2 words per minute, and it failed after just 3 weeks. But it proved something crucial, that connecting continents through underwater cables was possible. Fast forward through the decades, and we saw these cables evolve from simple copper wires, carrying Morse code, to sophisticated telephone cables, carrying voice calls. But the real revolution, that came with the invention of fiber optics. Today, we're in the middle of what experts are calling a submarine cable boom. Since 2020, we've laid 51 new cables, with another 68 planned by 2027. And these aren't just any cables. They're technological masterpieces that would seem like science fiction to those Victorian-era engineers. Now, you might be wondering, what makes these modern cables so special? Well, let me blow your mind with this number. 160 terabits per second. That's the speed of data transfer through just one of these cables. Let me put that in perspective. That single cable could handle 71 million people streaming HD videos at the same time. And some cables, like the faster cable between the US and Japan, can handle even more, up to 224 terabits per second. But how do they achieve these incredible speeds? It all comes down to the incredible engineering inside these cables. From the outside, they might look deceptively simple, about as thick as a garden hose. But cut one open, and you'll find layer upon layer of sophisticated technology. At the heart of each cable are thin glass fibers, each about as thick as a human hair. These fibers carry pulses of light that represent your data, your emails, your video calls, your social media posts. The light bounces along the inside of the fiber using a principle called total internal reflection, allowing it to travel thousands of miles without losing its integrity. But it's not just about the fiber. These cables need serious protection to survive in the harsh ocean environment. They're wrapped in layers of copper, steel wire, and waterproof shielding. In shallower waters where damage is more likely, they're given extra armor to protect against potential threats, which we will discuss later in this video. And here's something fascinating. Because light signals gradually weaken over long distances, these cables need boosters called repeaters every 60 to 100 kilometers. These repeaters are powered by electricity running through the copper sheathing, and they've got to be incredibly reliable. Why? Because once they're laid on the ocean floor, repairs become extremely difficult and expensive. Here's something that might surprise you. The companies laying these cables aren't who you'd expect. Sure, traditional telecom companies are still in the game, but increasingly, it's the tech giants like Google and Microsoft who are taking control. Why? Because they're tired of renting space on other people's cables. These companies handle so much data that it makes more sense for them to build their own private highways across the ocean. It's like they're creating their own internet infrastructure, separate from the traditional telecommunications networks. But it's not just about laying cables. Each new submarine cable comes with massive investments in things like data centers and land-based networks. We're talking about projects that can cost hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars. And the impact of these cables goes way beyond just allowing us to stream our favorite shows. They've become crucial for global commerce, enabling billions of dollars in financial transactions every single day. When these cables work well, nobody notices them. But when they're disrupted, the effects can be felt across entire economies. Here's a fascinating economic detail. Despite the massive increase in capacity and complexity, the cost of transmitting data through these cables has decreased dramatically over time. What would have cost thousands of dollars in the 1990s can now be done for mere cents. The investment in this technology shows no signs of slowing down. Tech companies and telecommunications firms are planning to spend billions more in the coming years, creating new routes and upgrading existing ones to handle our ever-growing appetite for data. Now, you might think that once these cables are laid, that's the end of the story.
Done and dusted.
But here's the thing. These cables face constant threats, and managing these risks is a crucial part of maintaining our global internet infrastructure. Let's start with the most common threats. Phishing activities and ship anchors are responsible for the majority of cable breaks. It might seem surprising that something as important as global internet connectivity could be disrupted by a phishing trawler, but it happens more often than you might think. Then there are natural disasters. Earthquakes, underwater landslides, and even volcanic activity can damage or destroy these crucial links. When the Hunga Tonga volcano erupted in 2022, it cut off an entire nation from the internet by severing its only submarine cable connection. And yes, as bizarre as it sounds, sharks sometimes attack these cables. They're attracted to the electromagnetic fields produced by the power systems, possibly mistaking them for prey. This has led cable companies to develop special shark-resistant armor for sections in shark-heavy areas. But perhaps the biggest vulnerability isn't physical, it's geographical. Many of these cables follow similar routes, creating what engineers call choke points. These are areas where multiple cables converge, often due to geographical necessity or political boundaries. To address these vulnerabilities, the industry has developed multiple strategies. First, there's redundancy, building multiple cables along different routes so that if one fails, traffic can be rerouted. Then, there's constant monitoring, special systems that can detect potential problems before they become critical. When something does go wrong, specialized ships spring into action. These cable repair vessels are like floating workshops, equipped with sophisticated equipment to locate, retrieve, and repair damaged cables, sometimes at depths of several kilometers. According to Cisco, consumer internet traffic is set to grow by 26% every year through 2025. That's a massive increase in demand, and these submarine cables are going to have to keep up. The good news? The industry is responding. Remember those 68 new cables I mentioned earlier? They're not just adding capacity, they're also creating new routes to help prevent those choke points I talked about. But the innovation doesn't stop there. Engineers are working on new technologies that could revolutionize submarine cables once again. We're talking about things like hollow core fiber optics, which could make these cables even faster by having light travel through air instead of glass. There's also exciting research happening in quantum communication. Some scientists believe that submarine cables could play a crucial role in creating a global quantum internet, a network that would be virtually unhackable and could enable new types of computing and communication we can barely imagine today. Now, you might be thinking, what about satellite internet? Systems like Starlink are making headlines, and they're definitely part of our connected future. But here's the thing. While satellites are great for reaching remote areas and providing backup connectivity, submarine cables still offer massive advantages in terms of speed, reliability, and capacity that satellites just can't match.
At least, not yet, anyway.
There's also increasing focus on the environmental impact of these cables. While they actually have a relatively small footprint compared to many other types of infrastructure, scientists are studying ways to make them even more environmentally friendly and potentially even use them to monitor ocean health and climate change. So the next time you're binge-watching your favorite show or video calling someone across the world, remember, your data is probably traveling through these incredible underwater highways, part of a global network that's been growing and evolving for over 160 years. It's a testament to human ingenuity that we've turned the ocean floor into the foundation of our digital world. And as our appetite for data continues to grow, these hidden cables will only become more important. The story of submarine cables is far from over. As we push the boundaries of technology and our need for connectivity grows, these underwater networks will continue to evolve, enabling new possibilities we haven't even dreamed of yet. Submarine cables are mind-blowing, right? What surprised you the most? Shark attacks, their massive data capacity, or tech companies owning private networks? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and stay tuned for more hidden tech stories. See you in the next one.